In the world of television, few people have left as lasting an impact as the legendary Johnny Carson. He was not a simple star, not simply an ephemeral personality saturated throughout the media one day and gone just as unexpectedly. Johnny was a cultural centerpiece of society for many generations of Americans for more than 30 years. He was the king of the late-night show. But behind the wit and charm was a host who paid attention. A man who knew when a guest wasn't just promoting a movie, but standing for something far bigger. These 8 guests didn't just speak against racism during a time when Hollywood ran on it. They took meaningful action. Let's start off with number 8, Kirk Douglas. Well, let's be real. Who doesn't want to know the secret to a happy and long life? Longevity and happiness are, without a doubt, two of the most coveted aspirations for many, and it seems Hollywood's bona fide superstar knew the secret. Kirk was born in 1916 and died in 2020. If you're doing the math, that's 103 years of living, witnessing, and shaping history, and in his case, defying it too. Kirk Douglas wasn't just a rebel in front of the camera. He fought studio politics, broke silent codes, and took on battles most actors wouldn't dare touch. In 1960, while others whispered, he did the unthinkable. He gave full-screen credit to Dalton Trumbo, who was a blacklisted writer targeted during the McCarthy era. That one gesture didn't just change one man's life. It cracked the spine of Hollywood's blacklist, and we mean it didn't stop there. Douglas, as a producer, insisted on integrated crews when segregation was still the norm. On one set, when a black technician was denied entry to shared spaces, Kirk walked without any kind of press release. He demanded equal bathrooms, dining halls, and equal everything. And when pushback came and studios threatened to erase his career, he didn't blink. He marched with Martin Luther King Jr. in 1963. He even funded the NAACP, and he didn't do it for clout or coverage. His own Jewish upbringing, steeped in hardship and exclusion, made him recognize injustice with clarity. And once he saw it, he acted. He lost big money roles. Doors quietly closed, but his stance never shifted. He believed his fame meant something only if it was used to protect those without it. And that's the kind of legacy that lasts for eternity. His sons, Michael and Joel, carried that legacy forward. But Kirk built it, one stand at a time. He was a legend. Odd number 7, Tony Curtis. Tony was one of the most liked box office stars of the 1950s and one of Hollywood's busiest playboys. But as a wise man once said, looks get you in the door, character keeps you in the room. And Curtis had character in spades. He rose from a Bronx tenement, the son of Hungarian Jewish immigrants who barely scraped by, and somehow turned himself into one of the era's most magnetic leading men. But what truly made Tony Curtis unforgettable wasn't just the films. It was a decision he made in 1958. That year, he signed on to The Defiant Ones, a film about 2 escaped prisoners, one white, one black, chained together and forced to survive. Sidney Poitier played the other lead. The studio tried to push old habits. Curtis's name big and bold above the title, Poitier's name smaller and beneath. But Tony wasn't having it. And he told them flatly, either it's equal billing or I'm walking. In a time when racism still steered nearly every credit roll and marketing decision, that kind of stand was seismic. He didn't frame it as a statement. He didn't give interviews about the moral high ground. He just knew what was right and acted. The result? Both men were nominated for Oscars. And while the performances were phenomenal, it was that equal billing that sent shockwaves through the industry. Tony and Sidney became close friends. On-screen chemistry turned into genuine trust. But Curtis paid a price. Studios began calling him difficult, and some of the power he had as a top-tier star quietly faded. Still, he never backed off the decision. He believed in that moment, in that film, and in the message it carried. When he passed away in 2010 at the age of 85, the most people remembered the charm, the laugh, the romantic leads. But in Hollywood circles, especially among black actors who came after, Tony Curtis was remembered for something far deeper. The moment he proved that equality doesn't need applause, it just needs action. Number 6. Gregory Peck. Gregory never needed to act like a man of conscience. We mean, he already was one. His portrayal of Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird gave America one of its most enduring images of quiet courage. But off-screen, Peck didn't just play moral clarity. He lived it, even when it cost him everything. When studios wanted to dilute Mockingbird's racial message to avoid controversy, Peck refused. He used his influence to protect Harper Lee's vision and took a cut of profits instead of a guaranteed salary, knowing the risk. And it wasn't a one-time stand. In 1948, he starred in Gentleman's Agreement, tackling anti-Semitism at a time when even mentioning it on screen could blacklist you. His own agent warned him that don't do it, but Peck did it anyway. He refused to attend segregated film premieres, no matter how big the spotlight. When a hotel denied entry to a black cast member, Peck gave up his luxury suite and found somewhere else to stay. In 1963, he marched with Martin Luther King Jr. in Washington. As president of the Academy, he led a push to diversify membership, even when older, white studio insiders called for his resignation. Peck was blacklisted from theaters across the South. Studios labeled him a problem. Roles disappeared. Still, he spoke out for civil rights, supported Soviet Jews' right to immigrate, and funded legal defense campaigns quietly, without the press. When Johnny once asked him why he took so many risks, Peck gave a quiet smile and said, "Some things matter more than safety." He wasn't chasing applause. He was holding the line. Gregory Peck died in 2003 at 87. But to anyone paying attention, he never needed a script to tell right from wrong. Number 5. Paul Newman. Paul Newman didn't just look like a leading man. He acted like one, even off-screen. With his piercing blue eyes and unmatched charisma, he could have coasted on charm forever. But he didn't. Instead, he used that fame as a spotlight to expose injustice, and he never cared who it made uncomfortable. Newman was among the first white celebrities to march in the Deep South during the height of segregation. Birmingham, Selma, Washington. He didn't just show up for photo ops. He walked where it was dangerous, where police dogs waited. And fire hoses were aimed at crowds. In 1964, he even testified before Congress in support of the Civil Rights Act. The government took notice. By 1973, Richard Nixon had Newman's name etched into his enemies list. The FBI had been tracking him for years, watching, listening, and filing reports. Studios in the South pulled his films. Death threats arrived at his home. Still, Newman didn't cry or care about. He refused to attend segregated premieres. When a theater offered to admit black viewers only if Newman stayed, he told them to keep their ticket. "Everyone gets in, or I don't," he said, and walked out. He demanded integrated film crews, created scholarships for minority students, and used Cool Hand Luke to challenge unjust authority on screen. Off-screen, he and his wife, Joanne Woodward, and funneled millions into causes no one else would touch. Even his food company, Newman's own, redirected profits toward civil rights and social justice. Paul Newman died in 2008 at 83. But his life didn't just change Hollywood. It reminded everyone watching that silence is a choice. And Paul Newman never once chose it. Number 4. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth never waited for someone else to take the lead. That's what made her dangerous in all the best ways. Sure, people remember the violet eyes, the diamonds, the husbands, But what should never get lost is the fire she carried. The part of her that didn't flinch at power and didn't cower in the face of injustice. And that part of her showed up early. Back in the 1940s, when she was just a teenager filming at MGM, Elizabeth saw black co-stars being treated like second-class extras. At 13, and she walked into a room full of executives and said, "No." She demanded they receive the same respect she did. That wasn't performative. That was guts, and it never left her. In the 1950s, when she was the queen of every marquee, she refused to attend segregated premieres, even of her own films. If black fans weren't allowed through the doors, she wouldn't walk through them either. And in 1963, Elizabeth didn't just support the March on Washington, she helped fund it, using her celebrity clout to push civil rights fundraising into overdrive. Her activism wasn't safe. She canceled events, lost roles, and was quietly labeled difficult. But she didn't budge. She believed if her stardom couldn't be used for something bigger than glamour, it wasn't worth having. And she didn't simply stop with race. When the AIDS epidemic tore through the gay community in the 1980s, and most celebrities stayed silent, Elizabeth charged in like a force. She took care of her dying friend, Rock Hudson, and jumped into bed beside him when others wouldn't even shake his hand. She held him like a human being, because that's what he was. For that, she received threats. She didn't blink. Elizabeth Taylor died in 2011 at 79. But make no mistake, she didn't just redefine what it meant to be a woman in Hollywood. She proved that activism doesn't have a dress code. You can be beautiful and relentless, fierce and feminine, loud when it matters, silent when it counts, and absolutely unwilling to accept a world that treats people as less than. All right, now let's move to number 3, Burt Lancaster. Burt looked like a man who feared nothing, towering, muscular, and the kind of actor who did his own stunts without blinking. But in truth, he had a paralyzing fear of flying. He'd break into sweats at the thought of it. Still, in August 1963, he faced down that fear for something bigger than himself. While filming The Train in France, Lancaster heard about the March on Washington. He asked for leave, got on a plane, hands trembling, and flew across the Atlantic. He marched beside Martin Luther King Jr., then flew right back to set the next day. That's what conviction looks like. But Lancaster wasn't new to taking stands. In 1947, he joined the Committee for the First Amendment with Bogart, demanding that Congress end its witch hunt of American artists. By the 60s, the FBI had extensive files on him, tracking his involvement with Beverly Hills integration efforts, civil rights fundraisers, and in social justice films. He spoke that day at the Lincoln Memorial, one of the few white stars honored to do so. He later appeared on Nixon's infamous enemies list, thanks to his activism. When a black soldier named Billy Dean Smith was accused of murdering his officers in Vietnam, Lancaster funded his defense. The soldier was acquitted. In 1988, when George H.W. Bush mocked Dukakis for being in the ACLU, Lancaster went on TV proudly flashing his own card. He chaired the ACLU Foundation of Southern California and never let anyone mistake where he stood. Burt Lancaster died in 1994 at 80. His courage wasn't just in front of the camera, it was in the quiet choices, the feared flights, and the willingness to do what scared him if it meant standing up for someone else. On number 2, Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey didn't just play the hardened cynic with a moral compass, he lived it. In 1947, long before it was safe to challenge government overreach, Bogart became the face of resistance in Hollywood. When the House Un-American Activities Committee began its campaign to root out supposed communist influence in the film industry, everyone knew the real target. Anyone who supported civil rights or dared challenge the status quo. Bogart didn't hide behind studio walls. He helped create the committee for the First Amendment and flew to Washington with other stars like Lauren Bacall, Danny Kaye, and Gene Kelly to protest the hearings in person. They walked into the lion's den, sat in the gallery as their colleagues were grilled, and watched freedom erode in real time. Bogart became the group's spokesman, reminding the press, fellow Americans are being denied their constitutional rights. Studios panicked. Jack Warner, Bogart's own boss, was among the first to testify. The backlash was swift. Careers were threatened. Pressure built. Bogart eventually penned an article titled, "I'm no communist," just to keep working. Still, even in that piece, he never backed off his original point. Americans were being silenced, and that wasn't right. Years later, when asked on television whether he regretted it, he said no. It wasn't politics. It was a principle. Bogart died in 1957 at just 57 years old, but his stand against intimidation gave others the courage to take their own. He reminded the world that speaking up when it's dangerous isn't weakness. It's the only real kind of strength there is. Number 1. James Garner. Some actors play the hero. James lived it. Born in Oklahoma and built like the kind of man who didn't flinch when things got real, he wasn't just a star. He was someone who believed in doing the right thing even when no one was watching. By the early 60s, Garner had already won over America in Maverick and was building his legend with the Rockford Files. But it was August 28, 1963, when he stepped into history, not as an actor, but as a man of conscience. That was the day of the March on Washington. 250,000 people showed up to demand civil rights, jobs, and dignity. Garner was right there with them, walking not in front of cameras, but hand in hand with black actress Diahann Carroll. And in 1963, that image alone was enough to light fires across segregated America. A good white man holding hands with a black woman in public? Well, that wasn't bravery, and that was borderline rebellion. The night before the march, the FBI called every celebrity scheduled to attend. They warned of violence, told them they couldn't guarantee safety. Some backed out. Garner didn't. He got on a plane and flew to D.C. anyway, not for attention, not to make a point. Because, as he put it, fellow Americans were being denied their constitutional rights, and that mattered more than fear. Hollywood didn't clap. Southern theaters blacklisted his films. The money took a hit. Garner didn't flinch. As a longtime member of the Screen Actors Guild Board, he kept pushing for labor rights and racial equity inside an industry that didn't exactly welcome change. He died in 2014 at 86. That photo, Garner and Carroll, fingers laced, still stands as one of the clearest images of Hollywood backing something bigger than itself. He never needed a speech or spotlight. His walk said it all. We really hope you've enjoyed watching this video. If you did, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more awesome stories like this. Thanks for staying with us. We'll catch you soon.